For more than 30 years, the world believed one simple lie. That Howard Cosell, the sharp-tongued, fearless voice of American sports, never truly cared about Muhammad Ali. They saw him on television challenging Ali, interrupting him, correcting him. They heard Cosell say again and again, "We were not friends. We were professionals." And people believed him. Fans accused Cosell of using Ali for ratings. Critics called him cold, selfish, even disloyal. Some said when Ali needed support the most, Cosell stayed silent. But what no one realized, that silence wasn't betrayal. It was protection. Behind the cameras, behind the headlines, behind the carefully chosen words, there was a truth so dangerous that revealing it could have destroyed careers, reputations, and lives. Howard Cosell wasn't distancing himself from Muhammad Ali. He was hiding his loyalty. When Ali refused to fight in the Vietnam War, the world turned against him overnight. Titles stripped. Licenses revoked. Income erased. He wasn't just banned from boxing, he was erased from society. Most journalists ran away. Sponsors disappeared. Friends vanished. But one man never stopped calling. One man never stopped helping. One man just never admitted it publicly. Because in the 1960s, supporting Muhammad Ali didn't make you brave. It made you unemployable. So Cosell made a choice that haunted him for decades. He let the world hate him, so Ali wouldn't suffer more. On television, he acted distant. In interviews, he denied emotional attachment. In public, he played the villain. And Muhammad Ali let him. Ali never corrected the narrative. Never defended Cosell's name. Never exposed the truth. Because Ali understood something the world didn't yet understand. Real loyalty doesn't always look heroic. Sometimes it looks like silence. Sometimes it looks like being misunderstood. And that lie, the lie Cosell carried for 30 years, was only exposed after Ali's death. When Cosell finally spoke the truth, it changed how history remembered both men. And once you hear what he confessed, you'll never look at their relationship the same way again. By the early 1960s, American sports television had a king. Howard Cosell. His voice was unmistakable, sharp, educated, unapologetic. He didn't just describe sports. He challenged athletes, questioned authority, and spoke with an arrogance that made people listen whether they liked him or not. Cosell wasn't just a commentator. He was power. If Cosell supported you, doors opened. If he turned against you, careers collapsed. At the same time, another force was rising, louder, faster, and impossible to ignore. Muhammad Ali. Back then, he was still Cassius Clay, young, undefeated, reckless with words, fearless with confidence. He mocked opponents, predicted rounds, and laughed at the idea of humility. To the old guard, he was disrespectful. To the media, he was dangerous. To the system, he was uncontrollable. When Ali changed his name and embraced Islam, the tension exploded. America wasn't ready. And then came the decision that changed everything. Ali refused to fight in the Vietnam War. In a single sentence, "I ain't got no quarrel with them Viet Cong," Ali went from world champion to public enemy. The punishment was brutal. His heavyweight title was stripped. His boxing license was revoked. States banned him from fighting. Television erased his image. Sponsors vanished overnight. Former supporters denied knowing him. Even fellow athletes stayed quiet, afraid of being associated with him. It wasn't just Ali who was at risk. Anyone who supported him risked everything. And that included Howard Cosell. Behind the scenes, Cosell understood exactly what was happening. He knew Ali wasn't a coward. He knew Ali was sacrificing his prime years for his beliefs. But Cosell also knew the truth of his industry. If he publicly defended Ali, he would lose his platform. Lose his influence. Lose the very voice Ali needed. So Cosell did something that confused everyone. On television, he kept distance. He challenged Ali's decisions. He asked uncomfortable questions. He refused to show emotional support. To the public, it looked like betrayal. Fans asked, why won't Cosell stand up for Ali? Critics said, he's protecting himself. Others claimed Cosell was exploiting Ali for ratings while abandoning him morally. And Cosell let them believe it. Backhand index pointing right. Before we go further, if you enjoy deep, untold sports stories like this, subscribe now. Speech balloon comment below. Do you think staying silent to protect someone is still loyalty? What the world didn't see were the private moments. Late-night phone calls. Quiet financial help. Careful advice whispered off-camera. Cosell used his influence where it mattered. Quietly, strategically, invisibly. And Ali understood. He never lashed out at Cosell. Never accused him publicly. Never demanded loyalty on camera. Because Ali knew Cosell wasn't protecting himself. He was protecting Ali's future. For decades, this hidden arrangement stayed buried under public misunderstanding. And the longer the silence lasted, the heavier the lie became. By the time the truth finally surfaced, one of them was already gone. And when that truth came out, the world realized they had misunderstood both men completely. The lie didn't just protect careers. It destroyed reputations. For years, Howard Cosell became one of the most criticized figures in sports media, not because of what he said, but because of what he refused to say. As Muhammad Ali sat banned from boxing, stripped of his title and income, the public searched for someone to blame. And Cosell became the easiest target. People expected him to defend Ali openly, to fight the system on television, to use his powerful voice to challenge the war, the courts, the commissions. But Cosell didn't. Instead, he stayed measured, controlled, careful. And the world interpreted that caution as cowardice. Newspapers ran headlines questioning his loyalty. Fans accused him of using Ali for fame and abandoning him when it mattered most. Even fellow journalists whispered that Cosell had chosen comfort over courage. What they didn't know was that Cosell was fighting a different war, one that couldn't be won loudly. In the late 1960s, the media landscape was unforgiving. Networks were not neutral platforms. They were political instruments. Voices that challenged the government didn't just lose airtime, they were erased. Cosell understood this better than anyone. He knew if he openly aligned himself with Ali's anti-war stance, he wouldn't just lose his job. He would lose the only microphone Ali might ever need again. So Cosell played a dangerous game. On camera, he questioned Ali's choices, not to shame him, but to keep the conversation alive. He pushed Ali to explain himself calmly, intelligently, repeatedly. What looked like confrontation was actually preservation. Because every time Ali spoke on television, even under pressure, he reminded the public that he was thoughtful, principled, and human. But that strategy came at a cost. Ali's exile dragged on for years. His body aged without competition. His speed dulled. His prime slipped away. And with every lost year, resentment grew. Some fans turned on Ali. Others turned on Cosell. The tension between public perception and private reality became unbearable. There were moments when even Ali felt the weight of it. Privately, he asked Cosell hard questions. Do they think you don't care? Do they think you're against me? Cosell never denied it. He simply said, let them. Because if the truth came out too soon, the consequences would be irreversible. Meanwhile, Cosell faced pressure from every direction. Network executives warned him to stop giving Ali airtime. Sponsors complained about controversy. Politicians criticized his interviews. But Cosell refused to cut Ali off completely. Instead, he walked a razor's edge, just enough distance to survive, just enough presence to protect. And Ali noticed. He never lashed out publicly. Never accused Cosell of betrayal. Never revealed their private conversations. Ali understood something few people did. Cosell wasn't protecting his reputation. He was sacrificing it. For years, Cosell became the villain in the story. The man who stood next to Ali but never stood for him. That narrative stuck. And it followed Cosell even after Ali's return to boxing. When Ali finally fought again, the world celebrated him, but many still questioned Cosell. Where were you when he needed you? Cosell had no answer he could safely give. So he stayed silent. Decade after decade, the lie hardened into history. And then time did what politics couldn't. It took Ali's health. It slowed his voice. It dimmed the fire that once shook the world. By the time Ali's Parkinson's became visible, the anger softened. The world forgave Ali. But Cosell remained misunderstood. Until death forced the truth into the open. Because some secrets aren't revealed by courage. They're revealed by loss. And when Muhammad Ali finally left the world behind, the silence Cosell had carried for 30 years finally broke. Silence always has a price. For Muhammad Ali, that price was measured in lost years, years that no champion ever gets back. But for Howard Cosell, the cost was something different. It was how history remembered him. As Ali's exile dragged on, Cosell became a symbol of moral compromise in the public imagination. People didn't see the private phone calls. They didn't see the quiet help. They didn't hear the conversations that never reached the airwaves. They only saw what was missing. A public defense. A loud protest. A clear declaration of loyalty. And because Cosell refused to provide those things, the narrative hardened against him. Young fans called him heartless. Activists accused him of selling out. Even Ali supporters believed Cosell had chosen safety over principle. That misunderstanding followed Cosell everywhere. At boxing matches, fans booed him. In letters, he was accused of betrayal. In journalism circles, his name became shorthand for clever but cold. And Cosell absorbed it all. He didn't issue clarifications. He didn't defend himself. He didn't rewrite the story. Because correcting it would have exposed Ali to greater danger. At the same time, Muhammad Ali was paying his own invisible price. The ban didn't just take his money, it took his rhythm. Boxing is not a sport you can pause and restart. Each year away from the ring stole something permanent. Speed faded. Timing dulled. Reflexes slowed. Ali came back brilliant, but not untouched. And both men knew it. In private moments, Cosell carried guilt, not doubt, but guilt. He wondered if his strategy was enough. If silence was truly protection. If the cost was too high. But Ali never blamed him. That may be the most overlooked part of their story. Ali could have exposed Cosell with a single sentence. One interview. One confession. He never did. Because Ali understood sacrifice in a way few people ever will. He knew Cosell was standing in front of the storm, not hiding from it. And so Ali chose to protect Cosell the same way Cosell protected him, with silence. As years passed, the world moved on. Ali returned to boxing and reclaimed greatness. He became an icon not just of sport, but of resistance. Cosell continued his career, becoming one of the most famous broadcasters in history. But the misunderstanding never fully disappeared. Whenever Ali's exile was discussed, Cosell's name resurfaced, usually with criticism. History, written without context, was cruel. Then time delivered its final cost. Ali's health declined. The once unstoppable voice grew softer. The quick hands trembled. The public image shifted from warrior to symbol. And as Ali's condition worsened, the world's anger turned into compassion. People began to see the price Ali had paid for his beliefs. But Cosell's role remained frozen in the past. He was still seen as distant. Still seen as calculating. Still seen as the man who didn't do enough. Cosell lived with that. He never corrected the record. Never demanded recognition. Never claimed credit. Because for him, loyalty wasn't about being praised. It was about being useful. And usefulness often requires invisibility. By the time Ali's Parkinson's became public knowledge, Cosell understood something painful. The truth might never be told while Ali was alive. Because revealing it would shift attention away from Ali's struggle, and Cosell refused to make himself part of that story. So the lie stayed intact. Not because Cosell was afraid, but because he believed some truths arrive only when they can no longer cause harm. And that moment was coming. Slowly. Inevitably. Some truths wait for silence before they can be spoken. For decades, Howard Cosell carried his secret without reward, without recognition, and without relief. And as long as Muhammad Ali was alive, that secret stayed locked away. Then, in June 2016, the world stopped. Muhammad Ali passed away. Cities mourned. World leaders spoke. Athletes cried. Millions remembered the man who was bigger than boxing. But for Howard Cosell, Ali's death didn't bring closure. It brought permission. Because now, for the first time, the truth could be told, without risking Ali's future, safety, or dignity. In the days following Ali's funeral, something unexpected surfaced. A recorded interview. Cosell had given it years earlier, with one condition. It was never to be aired while Ali was alive. When the tape was finally released, people expected analysis. What they heard instead was confession. Cosell's voice, once sharp and commanding, sounded slower, softer, human. "I let people believe I didn't care," he said. "I let them think I was cold." Then he paused. "And I paid that price willingly." The room fell silent. Cosell admitted that the public version of their relationship was incomplete, carefully constructed. He explained that defending Ali openly during the Vietnam era would have cost him his platform entirely. And without that platform, Ali would have lost one of the few media voices still willing to speak with him at all. "I couldn't fight the system loudly," Cosell said. "So I fought it quietly." That single sentence reframed 30 years of criticism. Cosell revealed how he stayed in contact with Ali during the ban. How he helped him financially when income vanished. How he advised him when pressure became unbearable. But the most powerful moment came when Cosell said this. "Muhammad Ali knew exactly what I was doing, and he let the world hate me for it. That wasn't betrayal. That was partnership." Ali, Cosell explained, had insisted the truth remain hidden. Because Ali didn't want Cosell's career destroyed for helping him. And he didn't want sympathy to weaken the power of his own stand. In other words, Ali protected Cosell the same way Cosell protected Ali. The reaction was immediate. Fans who had criticized Cosell for decades were forced to reconsider. Journalists admitted they had misjudged him. Historians began rewriting the narrative. But not everyone agreed. Some argued Cosell should have spoken sooner. Others said silence, no matter the reason, still causes damage. And that debate continues today. Backhand index pointing right now, it's your turn. Speech balloon comment below. Was Cosell's silence an act of loyalty, or a mistake that history shouldn't forgive? What made the confession even more powerful was what Cosell didn't say. He didn't ask for sympathy. He didn't demand praise. He didn't frame himself as a hero. He simply told the truth, finally, and let it stand on its own. And perhaps the most heartbreaking detail was this. Ali never lived to hear the world understand Cosell's sacrifice. He never saw his friend's name cleared. Never heard the apologies. Never witnessed the shift in public opinion. But maybe he didn't need to. Because Ali had already known. In the end, the turning point wasn't Ali's death. It was the moment the world realized that loyalty doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes, loyalty hides. Sometimes, it waits. Sometimes, it sacrifices reputation instead of comfort. And once that truth came out, Howard Cosell was no longer the villain of the story. He became something far more complicated. And far more human. Truth doesn't arrive all at once. It spreads slowly, reshaping memories, challenging assumptions, forcing people to confront how easily they misunderstood the past. After Howard Cosell's recorded confession was released, the story of his relationship with Muhammad Ali began to change, not loudly, but steadily. Sports historians re-examined old footage. Journalists replayed interviews they once criticized. Moments that once looked cold now felt careful. Cosell's sharp questions to Ali were no longer seen as attacks. They were seen as shields. Every time Cosell pressed Ali on television, he wasn't humiliating him. He was giving him space to explain himself in his own words. He was forcing the audience to listen, even if they didn't agree. That realization changed everything. Commentators began to understand that Cosell's restraint wasn't fear. It was strategy. Ali's exile from boxing had not only been a legal punishment, it had been an attempt to erase him from public consciousness. Silence was the system's weapon. And Cosell quietly refused to cooperate with that silence. He never allowed Ali to disappear. Even when networks pushed back. Even when sponsors complained. even when his own reputation suffered. The revelation reframed Cosell's career. What once looked like ambition now looked like sacrifice. What once looked like ego now looked like endurance. And in the center of it all was Muhammad Ali, aware, deliberate, and compassionate. Ali had known exactly how history would treat Cosell. He had known that silence would paint his friend as distant, even disloyal. And he accepted that outcome. Because Ali understood something deeper than image. He understood intention. As more people absorbed the truth, a painful question emerged. Why did it take death for honesty to feel safe? The answer wasn't comforting. Because while Ali lived, the consequences were real. Revealing the truth earlier could have cost Cosell his platform, and robbed Ali of one of his last remaining media allies. The system that punished Ali was powerful. It wasn't defeated by courage alone. It was outlasted by patience. The revelation also forced a broader reflection on loyalty itself. Modern culture celebrates loud allies, public statements, visible gestures, viral support. But Cosell and Ali's story revealed a quieter kind of loyalty. The kind that risks misunderstanding. The kind that absorbs blame. The kind that chooses impact over applause. And that kind of loyalty is rarely recognized in its time. By the time the truth was widely accepted, both men were gone. Ali, physically. Cosell, symbolically. But what remained was clarity. History no longer saw Cosell as the man who stood next to Ali without standing up for him. It saw him as the man who stood between Ali and erasure. And Ali's role in that story became even more profound. He wasn't just a fighter. He wasn't just an activist. He was a protector. He protected his friend's career at the cost of his own public defense. He allowed misunderstanding to preserve effectiveness. That choice revealed a level of emotional intelligence rarely associated with icons. Ali's greatness extended beyond the ring, into how he treated those who stood quietly beside him. The revelation didn't rewrite history completely, but it softened its edges. It replaced certainty with nuance, judgment with understanding. And perhaps the most important lesson was this. Silence is not always absence. Sometimes it is presence, carefully controlled. Cosell's silence wasn't empty. It was full of intention. And Ali's acceptance of that silence was not weakness. It was wisdom. By the time the world understood, the damage had already been done, but so had the protection. And that is the tragedy and the beauty of their story. Every story eventually leaves us with a question. Not about what happened, but about what it means. The story of Howard Cosell and Muhammad Ali is not really about boxing. It's not even about politics or war. It's about how easily we misunderstand loyalty. For years, the world believed loyalty had to be loud. That if you cared, you had to shout. That silence meant fear, or selfishness, or betrayal. And because Howard Cosell did not shout, he was judged. But this story teaches a harder truth. Sometimes the loudest support gets cut off. Sometimes the quiet support survives. Cosell understood the limits of the system he worked in. He knew that losing his platform would not help Ali, it would erase him. So he chose to stay where he could still make a difference, even if that meant being misunderstood. And Muhammad Ali understood something even deeper. He knew when to fight, and when to let someone else fight in their own way. Ali allowed Cosell to carry the burden of public doubt. He allowed his friend to be seen as distant so that he could remain effective. That takes trust. That takes humility. That takes a strength that doesn't demand recognition. We often celebrate visible courage. The speech. The protest. The moment that looks heroic on camera. But the most difficult courage is the kind that goes unseen. The kind that never gets applause. The kind that history often misses the first time around. Cosell paid for that courage with his reputation. Ali paid for it with his prime years. Both men lost something. Neither complained. And when the truth finally came out, it didn't erase the pain, but it gave it meaning. The lesson is uncomfortable. Because it asks us to slow down before we judge. To question the stories we think we understand. To recognize that people may be fighting battles we cannot see. Not all heroes announce themselves. Not all allies stand in the spotlight. Some stand just outside the frame, holding it together. If this story changed the way you see Muhammad Ali or Howard Cosell, then it has done its job. Backhand index pointing right. Subscribe if you want more untold stories where history isn't as simple as it seems. Speech balloon comment, respect, if you believe true loyalty doesn't need an audience. And tell me, where are you watching from? I read every comment, and I want to thank every thoughtful voice personally. Because stories like this don't survive without people willing to listen. And neither does truth.